Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Friday night, July 5th, 2019, Southern California experienced another earthquake, this time 5 times bigger than the July 4th earthquake. And the other thing that needs to be talked about is the series of earthquakes in British Columbia, just north of the United States, on July 3rd. A lot of seismic activity along the Pacific Rim and the Ring of Fire. And speaking of the Ring of Fire, the latest earthquake in Southern California was a 7.1. And noticed in the most pure cipher in Gematria, Ring of Fire equals 71. We actually talked about this yesterday, just prior to the 7.1 earthquake. And if you missed yesterday's presentation, we were talking about how in Gematria, using the 4 base ciphers, there's a lot of overlap with earthquake, Ring of Fire, and military. Notice using the alphabetic order, earthquake, Ring of Fire, and military all sum to 107. The key numbers in that being 7 and 1. If you're new here, this first cipher is the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, up to Z. The 26th letter is 26. The next cipher is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. The next cipher is the reverse alphabetic order. And the last cipher is the reverse alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So the latest is 7.1 in the Ring of Fire, where in a stretch of 3 days, a lot of larger earthquakes than normal. And the question becomes, should we expect an earthquake in the region of Vancouver, BC, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco? Those would be the cities in between where the latest earthquakes have happened. They said this 7.1 hit at 8:19 p.m. and it was about 17 kilometers from Ridgecrest, California. Notice God has gematria of 17 and 71. This latest earthquake came in Kern County, as did the July 4th earthquake. Kern County sums to 47, not too far off from the date 4/7, July 4th. They're calling the July 4th earthquake a foreshock to the earthquake, the larger one that now came yesterday, July 5th. Notice the word Pacific equals 47 as well. If you've seen the film Pacific Rim, if you pay attention, there's 47s all over the background of that film. In that film, San Francisco gets wrecked on the date August 11th. And that was pointed out to me sometime in the months past when we began talking about the date August 11th, 2019, which was last year the discussion began. September of 2018, we began discussing August 11th, 2019, how the media is foreshadowing that date, possibly for some destruction, maybe even a natural disaster. Again, August 11th is the 223rd day of the year, and natural disaster equals 223. Since we began identifying that date, the San Francisco Giants announced that they're hosting the San Francisco World Series earthquake team on that date, which seems quite interesting. But anyhow, from the July 4th quake to August 11th is 38 days. Pacific's also 38. And again, Ring of Fire and earthquake both sum to 163 as well, which is the 38th prime number. Prime numbers are numbers that cannot be divided except by one in themselves. 163 is the 38th. You have to understand, with technology, people are playing God over the masses in this world. You know, a 7.1 magnitude, 17 kilometers, the way they report it. God numbers. Keep in mind that's also 1 month and 7 days from July 4th to August 11th. This term foreshock sums to 44 as well. Again, they're calling this a foreshock, this latest earthquake. Here's the 3 earthquakes from July 3rd prior to the July 4th incident. The headline yesterday about the BC earthquakes is BC earthquakes remind residents to look ahead to the big one. And you see how they emphasize the big one? If you write out the big one, it sums to 158. That could be like the date August 15th, 15/8, in the same general time period as August 11th. And what stands out about that is from July 3rd, the day the quakes happened, to August 15th is a span of 44 days. Again, big earthquake number. August 15th. And the big one's the terminology they've always used in the Pacific Northwest for the expected earthquake. If you've never done any research on this topic, they're saying that Vancouver, BC, Seattle, Portland, Oregon, those could be 3 cities to be the first ever to experience an earthquake near a 10.0 magnitude. The plate up there is the plate of Juan de Fuca, and it's slowly slipping, and they're saying one day it's going to make a big slip that's going to cause a massive seismic impact. It's done it in the past, but never in the time of modern cities. About a decade ago, the Discovery Channel actually did a documentary projecting what might happen, and they focused on Seattle. If you've ever seen that, they show Seattle and its city buildings tipping over. They're saying it could be that severe. What's interesting is since the time of, that fear-mongering, if you will, Seattle's skyline's really been built up. There's a whole lot more massive buildings in Seattle now than there was 10 years ago. If you haven't been to Seattle in the last 10 years and you go there, you might be surprised at how dense the skyline is. A lot of construction there because of the technology companies. Also, in light of this latest earthquake, coming on July 5th, 7.5 like 75, remember, the motto is order out of chaos. Very important to Freemasonry, which controls this nation, its military, its government, its media. Order out of chaos is the agenda. Create the problem, provide the solution. And when you realize that these Masonic, warmongering, banker tyrants profit off this system, things begin to make sense. Every time something's destroyed, whether it's from a missile or an earthquake or a hurricane, there needs to be lending to fix the problem. And off all of that lending, incredible profits are made. So that is the incentive to destroy. Profit off interest, off bank lending. And that's exactly what's going on all over the world. Disaster capitalism. I'll remind you that yesterday it was revealed that the epicenter of the July 4th earthquake was on a military base, the China Lake Naval Air Warfare Center. And they said that earthquake was a 6.4. Notice China Lake is 64, where the epicenter was. Also, they downgraded that earthquake because they first reported it was a 6.6. And again, San Andreas equals 66. So does USGS. So does Mojave. It's in the Mojave Desert. They said it happened at 10:33 a.m. local. When you write out 33, it equals 66. Mojave's also 33. And in light of the first incident being on 7.4, don't forget that energy's 74. So was weapons. So was payload. So was nuclear. The earthquake was felt next door in Nevada. Nevada's 47. There was a lot of nuclear testing in Nevada and also in New Mexico, which is the 47th state. July 4th can be written 7.4 or 4.7. Yesterday's earthquake wasn't far from the Nevada test site. You have to remember that this is a nation that for nearly 50 years planted massive bombs and explosives underground and detonated them for testing purposes. And you have to ask, what were they testing? Technology's become a lot more sophisticated. From then to now, the nation's been run by the Masonic order out of chaos banker tyrants. No doubt they were testing their future schemes, which we're now living out. So, just to show you one more thing, August 11th, the day we're looking at, the 223rd day of the year. If you type out natural disaster, it's 223. And HAARP. The full name for HAARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. HAARP was actually patented on August 11th in 1987. And notice the full name of it sums to 223, just like the patent date was August 11th, the 223rd day of the year. And this is technology that has the capability to create earthquakes. And notice the acronym for HARP is 44, just like earthquake is 44, just like military is 44. The film Pacific Rim, Monsters Out of the Ocean, wrecked San Francisco on August 11th. Which this year will be the mayor's birthday for San Francisco as well. It's actually an important date in San Francisco history. The engineers signed off to do the work on the Golden Gate Bridge. Alcatraz opened on that date, and more. Robin Williams. So, we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. Till next time.